Hey guys, what's going on? It's Talk Forest TV here, back again with another Random Art Show. Obviously, we have got on my left, we have got the one and only, the part-time of the channel, Luke.
Hey, I'm becoming more than part-time now, Dan. Come on.
Got him going already. And below, we have got one and only, Mr. Reliable, Jack.
Hello.
We're back again for another show. So, obviously, it has been a bit of a weekend for Forest, obviously with transfers with the academy, and obviously we're meant to put in a bid for Fleming. I don't know if you two know much about him.
Not before we were linked to him, but I've seen a lot of people are quite excited for him, and he's linked to Napoli as well. So if we can beat them to the punch, that'll hopefully show some good intentions for the club.
What do you think, Luke?
Well, if it happens, I think it's going in the right direction. But it was only kind of like a week ago that they were giving us links to Zinchenko and Marcondes, who's now at Bournemouth. So I never believe anything until Forest actually put it out saying they'd actually signed them. So it'd be nice if we could make a signing some point soon, though, because we are sort of now lagging a bit.
Yeah. I mean, we've made a couple of signings for the academy today. I mean, it's which is quite nice. I mean, you're probably going to see a lot of the youngsters being around in first team, so it's nice for us to actually. I mean, if we are showing the intent to do it in the academy, does that mean a lot of the youngsters are going to be progressing on to the first team? What do you think of it?
I don't particularly know, because it's not really Chris Hughton's style to use a lot of young players. That being said, it'd be nice if he did. I just look at how long it took him to play Alex Myton last year. I think you're going to see Johnson around the squad. I think maybe Gabriel, maybe Fornal. But after that, I just don't know, because a lot of them haven't really had loan spells. And I think
Gabriel as well, as we say.
You mean the other right back?
Yeah.
Gabriel. So you mean Richardson?
Mm.
But the other guys in the academy, I'm not sure. I mean, I'd like to see a few of them go out and actually get some first team football lower down, get that experience, because we all know what happened when we sent Worrell and Cash down to Dagenham.
Yeah.
And while we went to Rangers as well, that seemed to have done him the world of good.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got the recruitment, we've got the youngster, they've got the development there, but again, like you say, will Houghton use it? He does like his more reliable players that he knows, like you brought in Murray because he knows what he can do, rather than trusting someone like Swan, who he ended up sending out on loan. So we do have the players coming through, but it's just a question whether Houghton will actually use them. It'd be nice to see if he does, and it does look quite possible that Myton will get a really good start in this season and really sort of build himself up as a first team regular, because of obviously how well he played last season at the end of it and how much game time he got. But like you say, with some of the youngsters, getting them out on loan, I think will be a big step for them. But again, it's whether Houghton will use the young players within his system or whether he'll just stick with the players he's more used to and more reliable, sort of older heads, I guess you could call them.
I don't want to jump the gun on the schedule, but are we going to talk about what you put out earlier, Dan, about the Football League investigating our transfers with Olympiacos?
I was gonna mention something about it, to be fair. I've been questioning quite a few things about it. Someone that I do that I do go through a lot about the transfers and all that, and a lot of news that does happen. He posted in the group chat about it, saying that Forest are being investigated for the transfers between Forest and our sister club if you like to call them in Olympiacos, especially with like you Coffee, your Booch, and you have those two Olympiacos, and that they're saying that the lead and all that are like monitoring what is happening.
Okay, well, I have about probably 3 things to say on this one. One, Watford and Udinese. They do it. They've done it for absolutely years since the Pozzos came in. They've been sending players from Watford to Udinese and back, and kind of vice versa. I mean, secondly, I think it's a bit rich to be investigating a club that's technically transferring money from one club to another, legally doing so because they are 2 separate clubs. We have 2 separate boards. The only thing that's the same is Marinakis and technically Ventros, if you technically class that as still being here. The other thing, I think it's also a bit rich considering the fact the EFL bottled demoting Derby to League One for avoiding FFP for God knows how long, yet they basically deducted points off Sheffield Wednesday, and they're now looking at probably another points deduction. I mean, I don't also understand what the difference is between when we broke FFP, we just got a transfer embargo. Yet now sides are getting points deductions. Why is it suddenly gone from transfer embargo to points deductions? How's that fair? And if they're going to do points deductions, I'd rather they'd done it kind of where they deducted it from the start of FFP, even if it meant we had a points deduction. Or, because you started with transfer embargoes, just embargo the clubs. I mean,
Yeah, they need to have one rule and stick with that one rule rather than having, potential relegation or potential points deduction or potential embargo. Like, if you're going to have one thing, enforce that one thing on like all situations around FFP, because like, if you're going to have like 3 different options, like how do you determine which is like worse and which is, not as bad of a breach? So we'll just give you a small punishment. I think they need to work out one way of enforcing FFP rather than having just a whole load of different things that could possibly happen or could possibly not happen. It just seems like if you're going to make a rule, just have one rule for it and stick with it. Like with, it's slightly different, but like with the taking off his shirt in the game, you get booked. Like, and it's not like, oh, if he takes his shirt off at this time of the game, it's a red card. At this time of the game, it's a yellow card. It's the same for the whole thing. And I feel like with FFP, they need one rule, for one punishment for the whole thing, rather than, like you say, 3 or 4 different things. Just here you go. This could happen to you. This could happen to you. You've done the same thing, but I'll give you something different.
Also, I had something for about 2 minutes, then everything was like, oh.
I see you sweating.
It'll come back to me.
Well, yeah, it's completely like, I think the EFL are obviously they're saying that their face corrupt anyway, especially with the Newcastle takeover. But obviously,
If you're gonna investigate transfer links between Forest and Olympiacos, another one, Wolves, they're Portuguese guys. How do you think they find all their Portuguese signings? Hello, George Mendes. So I mean, I could just probably sit here and just go, well, this club does this club does that, this club does the other. I mean, it's not like how we avoid FFP by using Olympiacos, because arguably speaking, the way we get past FFP each time is by selling a youngster. Ollie Burke, Tyler Walker to a degree, Matty Cash,
George
Osborne.
Grant.
Who did you say?
George Grant.
George Grant. Well, George Grant went to Lincoln for hardly anything, but we sell the young players, arguably other than a Piety at Almira, Ben Brereton to Blackburn.
Yeah.
That's how we keep our transfers being able to do it. The fact that we get Cafu on a loan first and then sign him permanently afterwards, and the fact that we got gifted Guerrero has absolutely nothing to do with it. Because to be quite honest, we didn't really want Guerrero in the first place. It was Marinakis that basically forced us to have Guerrero. We got Cafu, and to be honest, it was a loan first. So again, legitimate move between two clubs. We were looking for probably a central midfielder at the time. They said we have Cafu available. Would you like him on a loan first? He impressed. He got a permanent transfer. I don't quite get what everyone's problem is with it. You're two separate clubs with two separate boards, just with one common thing, which is who actually owns the club. The recruitment guys at both clubs probably look at our squads and go, he's a decent player, let's go negotiate with the people on the other side. Marinakis probably hardly ever comes into thinking about it, to be honest, apart from signing the money off.
And I think the deals we're doing are no different to the deals that any other clubs would do. Like, it's not like we're, going about it in a way of like, one club's a bit financially in the mud, so we'll sell a player for big money to the other club. It's just like any random two clubs doing business. We're not doing it any different. I could understand if it was the fact of, there's clearly something going on here, whereas like, Forest had a bid of like 15 million for Wobble, for example, and we give him for 5 million to Olympiacos. Like, then you can look into that and think, there's definitely something going on there. But it's just normal business. It just happens to be, like you say, two clubs with the same owner. It's nothing out of the blue.
But again, if you sold Joe Worrell for 5 million to Olympiacos when there's a 15 million pound bid on the table, then that's more for you because you're taking a 10 million loss.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's like, well, why are you taking a loss on a player?
Yeah, that's your fault. You've given yourself the punishment.
Yeah, you more or less put yourself at a disadvantage anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had, say, a 5 million bid for Joe Worrell from Burnley, and then Olympiacos came in with a 100 million pound bid, you could think, well, what's going on here then? Why are Olympiacos suddenly trying to transfer someone for 100 million from there to Forest, from Forest to there? That's when you start to think, oh, they tried to really get around FFP.
Yeah.
Again, I would argue that's Olympiacos' choice to make. But, that's suspicious. When you're sending a player over for what? Half a mil to a mil from one to another, that's kind of like peanuts. It happens anyway.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Dan, next point.
it was that and that about like how they are about it, because I mean, if they don't have one rule for like Derby, another rule for Sheffield Wednesday, another rule for Forest, another rule for the relegated sides, then I think that they really, really need to actually give a vote of no confidence, or actually have a set of rules and actually be like, yeah, we're going to go by these rules now. It's only going to cause a lot more issues, especially if we can do challenge it, because I mean, it might interfere the start of the season and that.
I think Derby don't have a leg to stand on because they know they have beat up. They have severely messed up, and to be quite honest, they didn't do the point deduction for the previous season for Sheffield Wednesday, so they weren't going to do it for Derby, as much as we all wanted it. What I want to see, though, is them do a 12-point deduction, but actually stick to it. Don't reduce it down to 6. Or you come in and hit him with an even bigger one. There's anybody else do this, this is what you're going to end up with. Then you follow through with it. Because to me at the minute, all it's saying is you can bend the rules of FFP and the courts, the EFL, the FA, whatever, like, oh yeah, we'll drag this out for as long as possible and make it seem like an absolute flaming laughing stock. If they would have demoted Derby to the next league for doing what they've done, do you think any other clubs would do it?
No.
But the fact they've fannied around with it and gone, oh yeah, but it's Derby and we have a guy on the panel that works at Derby, so we have to give them preferential treatment. That just thinks, well, you split the league into 2 halves. I mean, I've just seen today that the Reading CEO, the Derby guy, and Mark Ashton have all stepped down from their roles in that thing. So I reckon they've jumped before they were pushed situation. But again, that's not really the point. The point that people need to realize is there needs to be a kind of rule brought in where the owners cannot sell the grounds separate to the club. Because then you get problems like at, I believe, Wigan, where they were looking for someone to buy both their ground and the club. And it's like, what? Why have we suddenly become so, let's sell the grounds off separate to the club that actually plays there? Then you get the Coventry situation again, where they sold their club to the Wasps, and the Wasps wouldn't let them play for a couple of seasons, so they had to go and ground share. I mean, why is it that all this kind of evidence is out there, yet there is no actual proper rules around it about 3 or 4 years later? I mean, again, without talking the whole show, I'll let Jack come in a second. the ownership point of view. How many owners do you need to go through and look at before you really do strengthen your fit and proper persons? I mean, you've got the Alams at Hull. You've had the Venkies at Blackburn. You've had Fawaz with us.
You've got Blackpool.
Oystons at Blackpool. You've got Dale for Bury. The guys at Bolton. Macclesfield.
You would have thought by now, like they've seen Bury disband, they've seen all the clubs on the brink of extinction. You would have thought by now someone would have, thought that something needs to change. I would have thought maybe, hang about here. We've had a club go out of business. We've had clubs seconds away from, extinction. Surely they would have thought that something needs to be done. Something maybe a better idea might need to come into place where, if they've got a fit and proper persons test, that it's actually enforced properly. And sorry if you can hear my dog, by the way. And it's actually really worked out to properly make sure, because, you mentioned the Newcastle thing earlier on. Like, they came to a decision that the person wasn't capable of doing the, owning the club because of, I'm not getting into the politics of it all. But you see with other clubs, like you mentioned Bolton and Bury and clubs like that, it just looks like with them, because they're not a Premiership side, they're not in the public eye. Oh, it's all right, whoever wants them can have him, whether you've got enough money or not. It's just, yeah. So I think it all the way down needs to be consistent rather than just up at the top.
A current one is Swindon. They are in an absolute mess. The players are supposed to return to training this week. They've had to put it back because they've still not been paid last month's wages. They've got court cases going on with Lee Power and Morfuni, I believe his name is. And literally, they are an absolute shambles. And the fact that Lee Power is still in at Swindon is crazy. He just doesn't want to fund the club anymore. He wants out, but he wants to sell it to his mates, so he still technically has a role in the club. Yet, just let it go. Why are these people so kind of hooked on the fact of let's just try and ruin football clubs?
The thing that makes me laugh is when they go, oh, he's a boyhood fan. Well, if you're a boyhood fan and your club's in that state, you wouldn't stay. Like if I owned Forest and I was doing that bad of a job, I wouldn't just let it go to whoever, obviously, because I'm a Forest fan, but I would do what I can to pass that club on to someone who's capable of owning him. Like, I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it's their club, so they want to try and work out. I don't know what it is, but if you're really a fan of the club, you would make sure it's in the best hands possible, and you'll make sure that if you're going to ruin your own club, you get out there if you're really passionate and you actually seriously do love the club. It doesn't really make much sense.
Anyway, Dan, before we go on forever on
That's Jack getting intrigued to be putting his phone around.
Yeah, I think my tripod's out enough already.
Yeah. I mean, you found out the news today that football stadium's going to be back to full capacity now, which will be great for everyone to be back at football grounds, especially City Ground. I mean, it's been near enough like 14, 15 months since we actually last walked in. And that horrible night against Millwall. So, I mean, yeah. So I can imagine you two are looking forward to getting back into the City Ground.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait. It'll be, just when you hear the whole City Ground singing me a Mulligan tie, it'll just be brilliant. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of people trying to say that they should push back the European Championship final so they can have the full stadium there, because it'll only be about a week or so between it. But I don't see that happening. But yeah, to be back in a full City Ground would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll definitely make a big difference to the sides that have not had the revenue in for God knows how long now. About the Euros, I thought they were doing full capacity for Wembley anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They were
Actually, they could be doing
or something.
I think it's 80%. Yeah.
Well, but again, right? Even if you were 80% or you're at 100% capacity, you've only got to wait a month. Well, not even that. It's like what? It'll be the 11th when we've done. It's about 3 weeks until the first game of the season. I mean, can people really not be that? Can people not be that patient? I mean, for me, last season not being there wasn't that bad because it was an absolute shambles. And I think with us fans, if we were there, half of the squad would probably not even have made it out of the ground by the end of some of the games. Yeah. I mean, God, Harry Arter, after some of the games he played, I don't think he'd be emotionally stable by the end of his time of the season. Ryan Yates gets slaughtered on Twitter. It's like you drop Ryan Yates and just run on Twitter. Yeah. And it's like, I find some fans a bit crazy with the way they look at things. It's like I saw a guy today put on people going around like 800K's not a lot of money in football. Like, hello, in the grand scheme of things, that's like £3 for a player. I mean, in the Championship, if you spent 800,000 on a player, people say that's a bargain. Yeah. Especially if he then comes off and you sell him for 17 million. you've made a huge profit then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine looking forward to the Barnsley games, Luke.
Dan, seriously,
How did
do we
you?
have to mention Barnsley in every stream?
We've not
Funny enough, actually, Dan,
Mm.
now you've mentioned it, I'm going to do a little plug. And I'll tell you the reference to the plug after. FIFA Factory, we're looking for people on both PS side and Xbox side. Yes, Dan, there is no Nintendo Switch, unfortunately. I have to suggest that to Rich, though. Anyway, yes, we have 4 leagues so far. Basically, non-toxic gaming, brilliant kind of lads that run it. But we're just looking for players. I mean, we could extend for 5 or 6 more leagues quite easily if we had people. But anyway, the link is I've just decided to move from Villa to Barnsley.
Oh, what a surprise.
Anyway, Dan, is there any other topics?
Yeah, no enough. And have you any two got something to talk about?
Um,
The current Reds.
not
Well, we all
really.
know I've been living under a rock since the end of the season, so
Yeah. And with the Euros as well, it's just been there's not really been much fire stuff going on really at the minute.
I'm waiting for the minute the final whistle of the Euros to go till Harry Kane decides to move and the whole window just erupts.
Yeah.
You will literally see like a whole flipping domino effect. You'll have Harry Kane going from Spurs to City, I believe. Ings from Southampton to Spurs. Adam Armstrong from Blackburn to Southampton. And then Blackburn go and sign somebody from League One. Then a League One side go and sign someone from League Two. And a League Two player goes to the National League. My God, if that happens, I'll be calling me Mystic Luke.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like to say thank you to the boys for coming on.
Yep, thanks.
No worries. I always enjoy it.
And obviously, Luke probably go back onto his gaming and be like, up the Barnsley.
I'll probably find somebody to play at some point, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, cheers, Dan.
Right. I'll catch you all in a bit.